Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to 15th of July, 2021, the Windrush National Organization Public Engagement Meeting. We have these meetings every third Thursday of every month, and we're glad that you've taken the time to join. Some are joining us for inspiration, some are joining us because they are affected by the Windrush environment. And we, as an organization, the Windrush National Organization, is a representation of regional and local groups up and down the country. And we have our chair, Bishop Desmond Jadu, on the platform as well, and many of our members up and down the country who are from Coventry, from Manchester, from Preston, from Peterborough, from London, and Nottingham, and Wolverhampton, and Luton, and other places. And so we're glad you can join us. In today's meeting is with the Home Office. They will be giving a presentation on where they are so far with the lessons learnt review and an update on there, and also an update on the Windrush scheme. And also we may have a bit of discussion on the UK status. I just want to give you some house rules as well in terms of this meeting. We don't want anybody who's here who's wanting to kind of cause conflict. We're an organization that, yes, is all about celebration, but also about challenges and facing the challenges that we have in terms of moving our communities and those affected by the Windrush scandal, for them to actually have the justice that they need and the compensation that they deserve. So this is a very important meeting that we have, where people will get an insight into the work that we do, but also the work that the Home Office is doing. I have to tell you that we're not affiliated or being paid by the Home Office whatsoever. The Windrush National Organization is an organization of advocates. We're hoping that we can make tomorrow a better place in terms of our input and advocating for those who are affected. So this platform here is for us to find out more about what is happening. And, you know, we continue to have that dialogue and that conversation. And that conversation can be very detailed and deep conversations, but the fulfillment we're wanting to see is that everybody achieves what they need to achieve in a positive way. So if you can have your sound on silent, please, and we're going to have some speakers. But first of all, as we start always, we always start with a prayer, and that's to kind of give us encouragement, knowing that there's a greater power than us in the Windrush National Organization and the Home Office. So, you know, as a group, we believe that, you know, together we can achieve more. So if those who want to can bow their heads, we can start this meeting with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the sunshine. Not every day can be a sunshine, Lord, but we know, Lord, that with you and through you, we can achieve more. Thank you for giving us this opportunity, Lord, to have conversations, to have dialogue, to have greater understanding. We hope, Lord, we pray, Lord, that this meeting will be nourishment to all of us who are on this platform, and that we are in one accord, in unity, moving forward for the betterment of all. We ask these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So, the WNO, the Windrush National Organization. I'll give you an introduction of who we are, and you can see on our website, which is windrushnationalorganization.com. This meeting is being recorded, so if you don't need to see your face, or you don't want your face on this recording, then, you know, you can still remain, and this meeting is recorded. The meeting is recorded because we have an historical archive of these meetings, where people can go on our website to see previous meetings and gain more insight into what was discussed. We may have on our conversation some repeats of questions, but, you know, we will have a questions and answers session after we have had the guest speakers speaking. I'm just going to put you over now to our chair, and thank you very much for joining us, and you'll hear me again, our chair, Bishop Desmond Jadu.
Thank you, Nigel, and good evening, everyone. First of all, apologies from our Vice Chair, Reverend Clive Foster, who has a church council meeting tonight, and that's been booked 6 months in advance. So he sends his apologies this evening, and thank you to our Director of Communications, Nigel Guy from Bradford, for stepping in. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for introducing the various areas of the Windrush National Organisation. Saves my voice slightly. Nigel is right. We've been hosting these monthly meetings now. It's important that we ensure that this all-important dialogue continues with the Home Office. I think there are some expectations when we host these meetings, which I need to address because I've had various emails of people. One person said in an email to me that we've got to be careful when we post answers because they could go out of date. The answer to that is that they have been provided by the Home Office, meaning that is the Home Office's view at that, or their response rather, at that specific date. The fact that things may change 2 months later, then clearly that's up to the Home Office in terms of that. But at that time, that date, that's the response. I know that there are 2 months missing because when we went through the questions, they were very similar and the answer had already been given. The last 2 meetings, we've got the responses to those, and those will be posted up shortly after this meeting. There were a delay in the videos being posting because we had a lot of gremlins in systems. We've overcome those challenges now. So we can guarantee now posting our videos from these meetings within 72 hours of the meetings happening and post them on our website. We do have a YouTube channel as well that you can go to, Windrush National Organisation, and you will pick up all the historic archives there as well. So there's no issues there whatsoever. Now, in terms of these meetings, these are public meetings. They're not private meetings around a table, meaning I've had requests for minutes. Well, the videos are posted and those act as minutes, and that's a true live record with no one's opinion whatsoever on that. In addition to that, the slides. Now, our IT person who maintains our website actually has been missing for 48 hours because of family commitments. Therefore, what we have done on this occasion is that we've actually sent the slides to people who register for the meeting in advance. Now that does assist anyway, and the slides will be embedded on our website in any case, but they will be embedded on our website as soon as possible. But moving forward, what we'll be doing, I'm sorry, there are no questions to be taken at this point until after the Home Office presentation. So I'd ask you just to put your hand down in all honesty. Now, importantly, what will be happening during this time in terms of our communications, we will ensure that as we get information, it's posted on our website. Prior to the meeting, what we'll be doing is the slides will be placed on the website, and those slides come from the Home Office. And Darren, thank you very much. We can talk about that offline. So thank you very much for that offer of assisting with that. And that's what we're about. We're a family, so let's, offer to help as opposed to anything else. And as Nigel said, finally in closing, we welcome these meetings. We welcome the ongoing dialogue. And most importantly, one of the most important things is we're here to ensure that questions get answered. And importantly, the ultimate aim is not just to get justice for the Windrush generation, but also as well to ensure that what has happened before doesn't happen again. And that's a tall order in light particularly of what's been happening recently. And we've got a long way to go, but we've got to stick with it and keep this journey, keep this machinery rather moving to get justice for the Windrush generation. That's all I've got to say at the moment. Now, the format of the meeting will be, we'll be handing over to Kate very shortly. She'll be discussing various Home Office updates, whatever they are. And in addition to that, she'll be talking about the progress made by the Wendy Williams Lessons Learned review. So that's where we're really focusing tonight. I need you to focus your minds on those 30 Wendy Williams recommendations, because we've not received an update on that. And this is an important opportunity to hear if the Home Office rather has made progress or they haven't. We know, but that's for them to articulate to us this evening. You've had some slides in advance. Please feel free to refer to them, but they'll be displaying the slides and talking us through them now. We've allocated, I think, about 25 minutes or so for that half an hour. We've allocated 40 minutes for Q&As, and then about 8 minutes for closing. So that's how we'll be running the meeting this evening. So thank you very much, everyone. Nigel, do I hand straight to Kate, or do you want to introduce her?
Well, people, giving the instructions. Thank you very much, Bishop Desmond Jadu, our chair for Windrush National Organization. It is with pleasure that I need to introduce, I will introduce Kate Ridley Moy. She is the Deputy Director for Windrush Lessons Learned Program Team, and she will be giving us an update on where the Home Office are so far with the Wendy Williams review, and also any updates on the Windrush compensation, and we may have something about the UK status as well. So over to you, Kate Ridley Moy. Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, Kate, just before you start, Nigel and Chair,
Yep.
Anyone from the media, if we have anyone from the media, can you please declare yourselves so we can get going, please? Thank you.
Do we have anybody from the media? Please announce yourself. Just to ensure that what's been said here, and maybe some personal things, and if the person who's actually saying those doesn't want to reveal what's been mentioned, then you come through the Windrush National Organization. We'll be able to assist those in the media or those who need to find out further questions. So we give notice on that, and over to yourself, Kate Ridley Moy from the Home Office. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you everybody for having us here again. We've been along to a couple of these meetings recently, but I think this is the first time we've had a chance to talk about the Wendy Williams Lessons Learned Review for quite a long time, so thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to do that. Just to introduce myself, so I'm Kate Ridley Moy and I'm the head of the Windrush programme team. That was a team that was set up back in April of last year when Wendy Williams published her Lessons Learned Review team. And we were explicitly about forming a new team, bringing new people together into the Home Office from all parts around the Home Office in order to take forward those changes. So I was brought in from a different government department, so I'm new to the Home Office, and we've got a real diversity of staff. It's 25 staff. We've got some long-term Home Office staff. We've got people from operational backgrounds, people from policy backgrounds, a real range of people. So what we aim to do is to reach out across the organisation and to take Wendy's lessons and apply them across the whole of the organisation. I'm delighted to have some colleagues on the line with me this evening who are from our team, and in particular Angela Wilson will be helping me with the presentation, and then some of the rest of the team will be helping with some of the Q&A and online as well, to listen to your questions and to kind of understand what it is that people are interested in. I will get Azar, if that's all right, to put the slides up, and I'll just start with, I'll give Azar a second to do that. But the opening slide, which hopefully some of you will have seen already, includes a quote in it from the Wendy Williams Lessons Learned Review, which essentially points out that this is a very difficult journey and it will take time, commitment and determination, but it's essentially a fantastic opportunity for the department to really challenge itself. And I think that is so true. Having done this job for just over a year now, I've been really struck by Wendy's report was incredibly difficult reading for lots of people in the Home Office. It really brought home, I think, the impact of what had happened. It explained incredibly clearly and in a very detailed way some of the things that had led up to that happening, and it included 30 excellent recommendations, which we have accepted all of those and have been progressing. But the change is quite extensive. Some of what Wendy has talked about are things that we were able to do quite quickly, and we have, on some of the recommendations we'll come on to talk about, we have been able to deliver on what Wendy's already set out and close that recommendation down. For others, this is going to be a massive long-term programme of change. So, for example, simplifying our legislation, which was recommendation 21, taking that through Parliament and making the legislative changes necessary is going to take in the region of 5 years. So this is a long process. So as Angela and I talk through some of the things that we've been doing, bear in mind the kind of the difference in the level of some of Wendy's recommendations. Wendy Williams will be coming back in September, so we are currently gearing up around the organisation in order to prepare for that, and I'll touch on some of that as we go through. But if we can have the second slide, please, Azar. So this is I'll go through this relatively quickly because I think probably lots of you are familiar with Wendy's report, but basically the top row sets out the sort of 5 key messages that she gave us, or sorry, 4 key messages she gave us in terms of her findings. And what she highlighted was real challenges in the Home Office around race, and in particular institutional ignorance on the topic of race, and a lack of understanding of how that would impact on how our policies were developed, but also how they would be delivered. She also identified quite a lot of processes which weren't working well in the Home Office, so things around our institutional memory, people not knowing enough about what happened in the past in terms of policy, and then putting things in place that created problems and loopholes and challenges for people, but also not being quick enough to act when problems arose. The third was around our culture, and as we'll come to talk about, there's a huge culture change programme that we're taking forward, but in particular a sense that the Home Office was too defensive, it didn't have enough empathy, it wasn't listening, it wasn't open-minded to when people were trying to raise concerns. And then the final one is about our structure and the amount of support that's available to people, and then in particular issues around the lack of staff diversity and the fact that the Home Office, particularly at the senior levels, doesn't reflect the communities that we serve, and that can lead to challenges. What we've done in terms of those recommendations is we've divided the 30 recommendations into 5 themes, and in a second Angela and I will give you a kind of overview of where we are on each. So the first is in relation to righting the wrongs and learning from the past. That includes quite a lot of elements of the Windrush Compensation Scheme and the Windrush Task Force, although they actually existed in advance of Wendy's report being published. So she didn't explicitly make recommendations about setting them up, but she did give us some pointers as to what we can do to make them more effective. So we'll come to talk on to those in a second. Obviously, there was a big session at the last month's meeting all about the compensation scheme, and the meeting before there was one about status. So we won't go into that in too much detail, but we'll focus on what Wendy said in relation to her recommendations on those topics. Next is work around being more compassionate and taking a more humane approach. There's a section on our policy making and how we can make that more effective and more robust. There's a section about being open to scrutiny. So this is in particular addressing her challenges that we didn't go looking for feedback, that we didn't take on board the messages when people told us something was going wrong. And then the final theme is about having an inclusive workforce. And again, in particular, in relation to diversity of our senior staff. So as I say, we've taken all of those themes. One of the things that our senior leadership team were really clear about when Wendy submitted her report is that they wanted this to be a department-wide approach. And so the way that the Home Office is organised is that we have a permanent secretary who is the kind of our top boss in the Home Office, and then underneath there are senior leaders who are called Directors General. And what we did is we gave those Directors General one of these themes to lead. And the intention there is that even though the Windrush scandal was focused on a particular part of the Home Office in terms of our borders and immigrations area, actually we think, and the senior leadership team thought, that the lessons from Wendy's report are applicable across the whole organisation. So policing, so our security teams, our finance teams, all of those parts of the Home Office needed to properly engage with what Wendy was saying and to act on that. Because if we only addressed it in the borders and immigration space, the next scandal, the next problem could happen somewhere else. So that's the approach we've taken. And towards the end of the presentation, I'll say a little bit about cross-government working. But I think that kind of sets the context for what we're about to say, and I'll just hand over to Angela, who can talk you through theme 1.
Hello, thank you, Kate, and good evening, everyone. It's lovely to be presenting this evening to the Windrush National Organisation. I'm Angela Wilson. I worked with Kate Ridley-Moy in the Windrush Lessons Learnt programme team. I've been in the team since the unit was created back in March last year at the time of the publication of Wendy Williams's review. But prior to that, I have an extensive, I'm one of the experienced Home Office members of staff. I've got in excess of 20 years Home Office experience, having worked in units such as counter-terrorism, policing, immigration, so I have a rich knowledge of Home Office business, but my desire to be part of this programme is that I am indeed a child of a member of the Windrush generation. So I have a personal interest in making sure that the Home Office is held to account for the wrongs that was experienced by those people. So I think that in its entirety is why I'm actually part of this programme, and I'm really happy to be there. So my current role is head of the Windrush external engagement team. I work with David and Azar in that team. But prior to that, I was indeed the theme lead for theme 1, which is righting the wrongs and learning from the past. And so I'm going to start with giving you a little run through about what's included within that theme, the recommendations within that theme. But I will also cover theme 4, which is being open to scrutiny.
Get the next slide, please, Azar.
Yeah, please. Right, so I'm starting with theme 1, righting the wrongs and learning from the past. So this theme is all about making amends for the wrongs suffered by the Windrush generation. Included in this theme is the apology from the Home Secretary, what was given at the time of the publication of the Windrush Lessons Learnt Review in Parliament. The Home Secretary apologised in Parliament, and that apology has been repeated at many different stakeholder engagement events by senior management and ministers alike. And recommendation 2 is the actual Home Office response to the Windrush Lessons Learnt Review. We were told not to rush to make that decision, but to consider each of the 30 recommendations individually and have a considered response. And we published our response in September last year. So that was our response to recommendation 2. So those 2 recommendations are closed. The other recommendations within theme 1 starts with recommendation 3. Now that's hosting reconciliation events to allow members of the Windrush generation and the wider community to share their experiences and tell their stories. This provides an opportunity for the Home Office to listen and acknowledge and learn from our past mistakes, and for the government to take appropriate action. Now, we've acknowledged the sensitivities around hosting those events. So we have been very, very mindful that we consult fully about how we should approach hosting such a sensitive issue with members of the Windrush community. So we are consulting stakeholders, and we have consulted stakeholders. We're working closely with the Windrush Cross-Government Working Group on how we should host the event. But what we've actually found is the sensitivities are real, and they are quite different views about how we should host them. So the decisions we have taken is that we should have a trained facilitator who's actually skilled, got the necessary skill sets in mediation and working with such a sensitive issue to take those events forward. We've also acknowledged that we've got to get the balance right. It can't be all about victims, because we acknowledged not every member of the Windrush generation was a victim. So that's part of the concern, that we shouldn't be tarnishing everyone with our reconciliation bits, that we were all victims. So we're actually working to get the balance right. We want to get the balance between allowing people the opportunity to tell their stories, but at the same time, acknowledging the wealth and richness of the Windrush generation and all that we've contributed to society and the economy and the UK today. So the way we're approaching it now, or where we are today, is we actually are going to break this down into a consultation stage. So we're starting with this consultation with us consulting quite widely, and we're not actually doing that ourselves. We're actually getting our trade facilitator to consult fully on to get the views of all the stakeholders that we've been engaged with, to say how they would want to see those events. And then when we've actually got a consensus of views, we'll put that to ministers. And the aim is to run those events in August. So really the message I would say about the reconciliation events, in fact, we're not actually calling them reconciliation events. They're now called listening circle events, because we've acknowledged that reconciliation means that both sides were at fault. That is not the case. Both sides were not at fault. The Home Office was at fault. but the Windrush community hasn't been at fault. So we're calling them listening circles. So as I say, where we are now is that we were going to begin consulting on that, and then we're going to go with trained facilitators. Who's the trained facilitator? I don't know if we were able to at liberty to divulge. No, I couldn't, because we haven't actually been at the stage of procuring and appointing that person. We have selected some trained facilitators, but we couldn't at this moment say who they are. But it's actually people that's known. It's someone that's known, and they're very experienced in the field. So as I say, when we finished our consultation, 2 ministers to say how we're going to approach it, and we're aiming to run those events in August. Well, in autumn, sorry, not August, in autumn, sometime in autumn. Recommendation 4 is what we're all here about today. It's all about our outreach and our engagement events. Recommendation 4 says the Home Office must continue with the Windrush scheme and the Windrush compensation scheme, and we mustn't consider disbanding those schemes until we fully discussed with that and consulted about how we're going to disband it. Our response to that in our comprehensive review is there's no plans at the moment to disband either scheme. Either scheme will continue for the foreseeable future. But Wendy Williams also said we must continue our outreach work. So this is what this is all about. Our outreach work has been in existence since the start of the scandal, and it has continued. We do a host of different events through our outreach. That includes the one-to-one surgeries hosted by David and Azar. And that's all about presenting a face to the Home Office. So someone is actually not meeting up with a blank canvas. They actually have somewhere they can start with to say, I've got an issue. How do I take it forward? It's a face in the Home Office through our one-to-one surgeries. We actually have the community fund, which we've actually spoken about at last month's event. Now that's actually $500,000 that was put aside to work with grassroots and community organisations to raise the awareness of the help available, the Windrush compensation scheme and the Windrush scheme. Now that's been successful. Phase 1 has already happened. We had 14 organisations dotted all around the nation who've been successful in receiving funding, and they're out raising their awareness and monitoring their progress in their projects as we speak. Phase 2 of that closed on the 30th of June. I'm pleased to say we had a huge response to phase 2, in excess of 108 applications applied to phase 2. And that's currently being assessed and evaluated as we speak. The first round of the assessments is happening as we speak. Now, the aims of this community fund is to do more than the Home Office could do, to find new and innovative ways to dig down deep and reach people in the community that we wouldn't necessarily be able from the centre to reach. And as I say, phase 1 has been successful in doing that, and hopefully we'll be as successful with phase 2. We're working with, we're looking to produce a video giving key messages about both schemes and translating them into various languages. Because part of our, I'm going to go on to talk about recommendation 5, part of that is acknowledging that the Windrush scandal was not necessarily only for people of the Caribbean. There are actually people from nations wider than the Caribbean who are part of the Commonwealth who could have been impacted. So our outreach work has to reach people wider than the Caribbean. So we've got the videos being translated. We have engagement forums every 2 months with groups, with stakeholders who bring forward issues that they want the Home Office to provide clarity on, in relation to the scheme or even wider. And then we get the experts from in the Home Office to come and liaise and update on that. So our engagement forums meet every 2 months. Part of recommendation 4 at this point, as I say, I would mention the Windrush scheme, which is where we provide the documentation to those who haven't got the documents to prove their legal status to be in the UK. At the moment, we have issued documentation to 13,000 people and rising. And we also updated you last month on the compensation scheme. And the current figures as the end of May is that we've actually offered in excess of £32.4 million has been offered in compensation. Now that's 7 times the amount we were at when we first started when we made changes to the compensation scheme in December last year. So the changes that our stakeholders have asked us for is actually making an impact, and we've actually paid out 7 times the amount since December last year. Recommendation 5 is that we must continue our outreach and engagement work, but as I say, we're going wider than the Caribbean. So our current programme of work is we're now working through High Commissioners, both in the UK and the British High Commissioners overseas, to reach people wider than the community, rather than the Caribbean. So we're actually asking them to just put us in contact with community groups throughout the nation that we can outreach. And that's actually been quite successful. We've liaised with the High Commissioners of the Caribbean, Nigeria, Ghana, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, brokering their help to say, either put people through to the community fund if they actually have community groups that they know can raise awareness, or if anything, give us the contact and we will make that contact ourselves. So there's a huge amount of work being done on recommendation 5 to go wider than the Caribbean. Recommendation 6, which is the last one I'll touch on within theme 1, that's about, I mean, Kate mentioned about one of the things we were criticised for is the lack of knowledge, historical knowledge about the history of the UK and its relationship with the rest of the world. So recommendation 6 actually directs that every member of staff in the Home Office will be trained on the history of migration and race in the UK. So that training package is currently in development. It's being designed and developed as we speak. But we're actually not resting on our laurels. We've actually had many, many different community groups and organisations coming in and speaking to us just on that thing, just to raise awareness about the Windrush community, telling us about things from actually when Empire Windrush arrived in 1948 up to the present day. As recent as yesterday, we had the Windrush Foundation came in and spoke to in excess of 400 staff in the Home Office about the history of the Windrush generation. So that training is happening as we speak. But as I say, the actual rollout of the training programme will be rolled out in the autumn. But that will be something that will hopefully, they'll always have that historical knowledge about the history of Windrush and of the UK's relationship with the rest of the world. That's the thing, that's the canter through theme 1. I will now take you through theme 4, which is about the Home Office being open to scrutiny. Now, this is about the department being, we need to ensure that the Home Office becomes an outward-facing department, a department that listens and acts on the views and the challenges of external stakeholders and staff. Staff should feel safe to challenge if they have any concerns. One of the criticisms from Wendy Williams was that staff who worked in caseworking and operational roles may have had that niggling thought in the back of their mind that something didn't seem quite right, but they didn't have the confidence or even the processes in place that they felt they could raise those concerns. Part of our changing culture is to encourage that. We actually have set up a unit now that if they have anyone has any concerns, they can actually take it to the early warnings team and say, could this be looked into further? I'm not quite happy about that. So the Home Office is a real major fundamental culture change that we are leaving ourselves open to scrutiny, and we're actually allowing and welcoming people, whether it be staff internally or externally, to challenge us on our policies. And we will be sharing how we're approaching in our policies and consulting on that. So Kate is going to touch on cultural change, but that change about being open to scrutiny is all the recommendations being taken forward within theme 4. The key work being done within, sorry, was someone going to try and come in there?
No, it was me. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was picking up theme 2 yet, but no, carry on.
Just going to finish, okay, got a little bit more. So what I wanted to talk about is some of the things being done or taken forward in theme 4. And what we've actually established is a community and stakeholder engagement hub. Now, this engagement hub is seeking for the Home Office to be a centre of excellence into how we communicate with communities and our key stakeholders. It's about finding proactive ways to share knowledge and expertise so we could be more successful in our engagement. The hub came into existence at the turn of the year. At the start of December, we actually started to get staff coming into that, but we're actually working at the moment on a practitioners network. So people could actually come in and share their good practices, share their key learning when it comes to engagement, and so that people around the Home Office, not only in the centre where we work in our programme, but wider at all parts, can actually benefit and learn from these practitioners about how you extend. Our team here are experts who have actually been dealing with people on a daily basis as far as the Windrush workers. They're part of that practitioners network. They will be feeding in all the key learning about liaising with community groups and grassroots organisations. Something that's innovative and new to the Home Office, because we're not renowned for doing that. But definitely the Stakeholder Engagement Hub is taking forward us making engagement a capability that we're actually developing and sharing. It's all about overall in our risk management framework so that people are better able to manage and act on risks as they are identified. Again, we were criticised that risks were there, people had actually put it in the risk, but we weren't actually actively monitoring and reviewing it. It's about being more proactive in managing our risks so that we can actually mitigate against them before they actually become an issue. So open to scrutiny, which is all about engagement, and righting the wrongs are the two themes that I've covered there, Kate. So I'll hand over to you to take it from there. But happy to chip back in if you want me to.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Angela. And we can come back to some of the questions at the end in the Q&A section for people who put those in the sidebar. So thank you for those. Yeah, so we figured that righting the wrongs and learning from the past and openness to scrutiny, of which this event is an example of some of our work, are probably the two themes that are of particular interest. But we thought we'd also let you know a little bit about some of the other themes. So theme 2 is about taking a more compassionate approach. And what we've done there is we've taken a set of the recommendations that Wendy made that were all about people thinking about ethics, improving our thoughtfulness, so reviewing things around us. But I was talking about was our theme 2, more compassionate approach, and the new values that we've got around being compassionate, courageous, collaborative and respectful. And then I had just started talking about theme 3, which is our inclusive policy making. And the key thing that I wanted to draw out there for people was around the introduction of our policy tests. So this was something that we were very keen to introduce. We discussed it with Wendy. We also talked with the Chilcot inquiry team as it was something that they had introduced following the Chilcot inquiry. So we now have a series of questions that people in all around the organisation can answer when they're developing policy, which basically are some prompts to some of Wendy's lessons. So it says things like, are you sufficiently aware of the history of this area? Have you looked at all of the analysis and evidence? Those kind of things. Have you spoken to stakeholders? And it acts as a prompt for staff to make sure that they're really looking at things in the best way possible. Our final theme is around theme 5, which is an inclusive workforce, which I think Angela was just telling you a little bit around there. And one of the things that we have done recently is we've published all of our data about our diversity statistics in the Home Office. So we are very aware of and transparent about the fact that our diversity statistics for Black, Asian and minority ethnic staff in particular are not good for the senior levels, and the higher up the organisation you go, the worse that representation is. So we have a race action plan which has got a number of actions underway to try and improve that, and we have set out very publicly that it is our intention to improve that situation. So that's where we are on the 5 different themes. The next slide was just to give you some insights into, as you've seen, Wendy made some recommendations that were about a particular part of the department. We realised that actually her lessons apply across the whole organisation. And in fact, they go further than that, because actually a lot of these lessons are really applicable to other government departments. So lots of government departments have exactly the same issues, particularly around race and diversity of senior staff, similar challenges around the need to be more outward facing, to not feel so defensive and nervous when people challenge us. So one of the things that we've done is a big programme of work working with other government departments to make sure that they're aware of Wendy's work, and to join up with them to learn from what they've done, to share our experiences. And that has been hugely beneficial, as well as meaning that across Whitehall, civil servants are very well aware of what went wrong with the Windrush scandal, and hopefully that can help to ensure that those kind of mistakes don't happen in other government departments as well. And then our final slide is about what excellence looks like. So we are very conscious of the fact that what went wrong in the Home Office went wrong on a very severe scale for those who were impacted. It's had a big impact on them, their families, the community, trust in the Home Office, and a big impact on how we're perceived. So one of the things we did is we asked our staff what they felt excellence would look like, what it is that we're striving for. And this slide sets out some of those things that we want to achieve, like trying to be a more listening organisation and listening to communities and experts, starting to do things differently, inviting challenge. It's not always easy for Home Office officials to go out, to meet the public, to expose ourselves, to ask for help, to ask for your feedback and your criticism, but we think it's really important. And this event this evening is one of those opportunities for us to come to you, to talk to you about what we've been doing, and to ask for your feedback. So that is the end of our presentation. I will attempt to simultaneously log back in on my laptop so that I can also see the Q&A in the sidebar. But thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much, Kate Ridley-Moy. Angela, what's your surname?
Wilson.
Angela Wilson, thank you very much, and for Azra as well for hosting the slides. Very detailed slides. Hopefully people have had the chance to view them. If they probably got some questions they want to raise with the Home Office with regards to the presentation that they have given. I've seen some questions in the chat, more observational questions rather than questions as well. So, you know, I've got one question that I had from Julia Davidson, was how are you measuring and evidencing what is going right from the Home Office? So that's the question.
Yep. So all of our recommendations and our theme work, all of our recommendations and our theme work have success measures attached to them. And so those have been agreed with the DG theme leads, as well as with the policy teams who are delivering on the work. And we monitor success on that. We have a program management office. We get monthly program updates from around the business on how they're doing. That goes to our steering group. It's also reported to the Home Secretary. Some of that featured in the comprehensive improvement plan that Angela mentioned that we published last September, and that will continue to feature when we provide updates. And obviously at the moment we are building towards Wendy Williams' return in September. So we are pulling together a huge amount of progress updates and information for Wendy, so that when she comes in to do that progress update, she can determine the extent to which she thinks we have or have not met her recommendations. We also do some work with the Government Internal Audit Agency, so they come in now and again and assess the programme and provide us with reports. And obviously our ministers and senior officials appear at the Public Accounts Committee and the Home Affairs Select Committee as well. So there's quite a lot of scrutiny of that, and we do have quite a lot of systems in place to monitor that.
Okay, in this session, we're going to have the opportunity for people to ask questions in relation to the presentation as well, and probably some updates on the Windrush compensation scheme. I'm asking people to be very summarised in their questions and not to give too much observational features, because we're short of time. So I'm hoping that when questions and hands are raised, I can see some hands raised. But I've got one more question that Julia Davidson has. Julia, it was about the 2 recommendations that have now been considered to be closed. What are those 2 recommendations that have been closed?
The two recommendations that have been closed is the apology from the Home Secretary that I said has been repeated many times at events. So that's been considered but delivered. And it's also the issuing of the Comprehensive Improvement Plan, which is our response to Wendy's report.
Okay. Well, I'm going to open up the table, and if you want to ask a question, if you know how to raise a hand on the screen in terms of the digital hand, do so. I'm not quite sure if I can see everybody on the screen. I'll have to be scrolling across those who are unable to use a digital hand, but I can see there is Richard Black who wants to ask a question. So Richard Black, over to you.
I have two quick questions, one for Angela and one for Kate. The first one is for Kate. Kate, thank you very much for appearing today. My question is this, right? It's nice to see that the Home Office is trying to, but for an organization that's been in existence for 239 years, I think they came into being in 1782, 27th of March, 1782. And that's 239 years ago, right? And they're now starting to think about doing policy changes, right? Are we to take you guys seriously when the Prime Minister of the UK and his Home Secretary will refer to Muslim women as letterboxes and Black people as pickaninnies with watermelon smiles? How are we to take your policies seriously? The second one to Angela. Angela, $32 million, 32 million pounds was paid, right? Out of a possible 250 million to 500 million. Isn't that a false sense of achievement for the Home Office to be boasting about $32 million, 32 million pounds paid? Thank you very much.
Kate, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
And that's fine, I can go first. I'm going to try and do it on my phone. Hope that the sound quality is a bit better. So I think the first thing I would say is that Angela and I and my team are civil servants. So we are here to provide you with information about what the Home Office is doing in relation to the Wendy Williams Lessons Learned Review. It's not we are not able to comment on the sort of politics or the Prime Minister or the Home Secretary. So hopefully you understand that distinction between the politicians and the civil servants. But to your question, I would say you have every right to question whether or not you can trust us. I think the actions of the Home Office that led to the Windrush scandal bring that trust very much into question, and it is our job to try and earn that back over the coming years. I have been impressed by the commitment that I've seen from senior leaders in the Home Office and staff across the Home Office to learning from this and to doing things differently. We do have a huge number of staff. This is a massive change programme and there is a lot of change needed. But people seem very committed to making that change. We regularly have thousands of our staff turn out for our Windrush events. For the launch of our Comprehensive Improvement Plan. We had, I think, 3,500 staff attend our last event, which included the launch of our new values. So just from what I see of my fellow civil servants, I have been very impressed by their sort of commitment and determination. But yes, you are completely within your right to question whether or not that change will be real, and hopefully be able to come back at regular intervals and update you on progress and potentially win back that trust over time.
Okay, Angela?
And I agree with that. In response to whether or not we can change, it really is, the proof is in the pudding. It would see how much we're communicating, what we're doing differently to how we've done before. Time will tell if the Home Office has had a cultural change that we're desiring, that we're aiming for. In relation to the amount we've paid out in compensation, still a long way to go. It's work in progress. But what I will say is that money that we haven't spent is there. And if we had the numbers through, we will be paying out, hopefully, again, 7 times as much with the applications that we receive, because that's all part of our outreach, to continue to reach out to meet people who haven't yet submitted an application. Yes, there's work to be done to make it speedier and more quicker process. But what I can guarantee is that the money is there. So if the applications are received, if the applications are in, that money will be paid. But we have to have the people come forward to say, yes, we want to submit an application. So that's all I can say. on that.
Well, Angela, just very quickly, my name is Richard Black.
Mhm.
I've just sent in my compensation claim. Just remember the name, please.
Yes.
£20,000 is not going to work for me. After 38 years stranded in Trinidad and Tobago, that's
Yes.
not going to work for me. So don't even think about going or offering me no small money. That can't work for me. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Richard, for your questions. And, you know, they are real questions, real life that is experienced. And hopefully that the Home Office has taken note of the concerns that Richard has, and that we can move forward, and that there can be some resolution that is in effect more beneficial for Richard than it is for the Home Office. So thank you. I've got Jacqueline McKenzie next, please. Jacqueline.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Apologies for saying to Richard he didn't have his mic off, because I didn't think you picked up on it, so I thought I was being helpful and not obstructive. Yeah, interesting presentations, thank you. I will say that I have seen some improvements around compensation and also around status documentation, and I think that's partly to do with the significant increase in the amounts of some of the tariffs, and I think that's obviously where this huge figure has come from, of 30 odd million. But one of the worries I've got, well, I've got several, but I know I haven't got the whole night, so I perhaps will just pick one or two. One of them is I am still very concerned about the low levels of people applying and coming forward, and I'm worried about the Home Office's approach to it, because I know I keep comparing, you know, the 90 million you gave to 50 community groups to do the EU settled status work, and I know the scale, you know, 3 million or 6 million as we now know, EU applicants. But even if you were to pro rata that down, it would make a difference. I do not think the approach of inviting groups to bid for this 25,000 is going to work. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of the groups that got the money in round one are ringing me up. I didn't even apply. You know, I'm just trying to do the casework, and they're ringing me up asking me for ideas. One of them wants to film me because he's desperate to produce something. So it's people who are very good at writing bids and getting the money. They don't know what they're doing with it. And I think what you need to do is ring fence some of that money and give it to the groups around the table, the WNO groups and others here. I can see the BCA here and so on, you know, Miss Hill, and give it to, you know, you're very good at giving out money, taxpayers' money. We saw it with PPE and everything, and give some of this money to groups because they will do it. They know where people are. They know where the centers of influences are, you know, the church, the community halls, the social centers, I found people in betting shops. I don't want to cliche our people. I'm part of that community, but we know where they are. And I really do think that, you know, and I'm not asking for myself because I can't do that work. I don't have capacity to do it. I'm talking about people sat around this table and other tables, because there are other forums who know how to do this. And I really do think, stop putting people through the mill and making sure they've got this, that, and the other in place, and just divide some. You've now met with these people for so long. I mean, years, almost 2 years you've been meeting them. So you know who they are, you know they're trustworthy. So just get on with it. And you will find that the numbers will start coming through, I bet you. That was the first thing I want to say. The second thing, which also relates to the people sat around here. So just by sheer coincidence, I was invited to a consultation with the Home Office. So I've been invited to two, and they were both very good. I'm not knocking the Home Office on these. They were very good. One was on the nationality, the changes to the Nationality and Borders Bill on nationality, and it was an excellent consultation, a real meaningful one. I was very impressed. The other one was a group of people working on asylum and refugee issues that were brought together to discuss one of the recommendations in Wendy Williams's review, and it was the one about employing the migrant czar or the migrants commissioner or whatever it's going to be called. And I was absolutely stunned to find that there was this consultation going on. Sector groups, NGOs, wearing different hats. So there was the, you know, the various stakeholder groups that you meet with were invited to discuss that role. And nobody, not one of the Windrush groups were invited. And I want to say, yes, you can tick off 2 recommendations, but then to be fair, you know, an apology and writing your own paper, I mean, great, you've done it, but they're not really the most important ones in the scheme of things. If you want us to trust you, you've got to have meaningful engagement. It's all well and good for you to come here and sit here and think, thank God we could tick off item 1 and 2 on a list of 30, but there are many, many more. So you're rewriting the educational pack. Have you asked anybody here who has this lived experience to contribute to that pack? You haven't. Somebody from Oxford University rang me up and said, could I contribute to a pack? They're preparing for the Home Office. Why are they doing it? So, I mean, of course, it's going to have a certain thing about it. So I'm not saying you don't invite the academics to do it, because of course it's going to be an academic thing, but you have to engage with the people who are doing this work properly, not just sit here and talk, because it's good. I'm encouraged by what you've said so far. I'm not knocking you, but beyond this, there's a deeper level of work that needs to be done, and I don't think that you're doing that yet.
Yeah, I do not underestimate the power of communicating and consulting the right people. I really, really don't. But that's it. We're not delivering all the recommendations ourselves. We actually got it to different recommendation leads that are taking it forward, and they know they have to consult. They know they have to get subject matter experts. They know they have to reach out to the community. Now, that is part of the challenge, to make sure that they have consulted. As I say, an excellent presentation from an organisation called the Windrush Foundation yesterday, which was very authentic towards you telling us about our history, the history of the Caribbean and the Windrush generation. More of that, please. More of that. Like you say, bringing in the people that we know. But you can help us by just saying, tell us your work. Tell us what you can contribute, how you can help us. Because we've got listening ears. We've got listening ears for making sure we are speaking to the right people.
Okay, thank you very much, Jacqueline. There was very good points there. You could have said to the Home Office, why you're not doing that, but you've actually given a solution there. So I'm grateful for that, and I hope that the Home Office can take that on board. I think how I would actually describe it is that the Home Office is a big engine. What it needs to do is to actually retune it and use different oil. Because in a sense, for that big engine, the big workmanship of the Home Office, it cannot continue subscribing to the NGOs and those consultants in terms of people who've been affected. And you really should be engaging with those people, those who know it, feel it. That's all I can say. And I'm hoping that the Home Office can do that, and that the presentation today is just the start of real engagement, real honest discussion, that you're actually not allowing consultants to approach, or people who probably don't know anything about the history or structure of Windrush and the scandal in the environment and the hostility and the feelings that the communities have. You have to engage with those who've been affected, because if not, you're just going through the same motions, and there will not be the true results that the community is looking for. I don't know if Kate or anyone else from the Home Office wants to reflect on that particular observational question that Jackie Lee Mackenzie has presented. I'll give you 1 minute, then I'm moving over to some other questions from the people on this platform. No? Okay.
I would just echo.
You are echoing, Kate.
I would echo what Angela has said, which is that we are not very good at using technology. I would echo what Angela has said, and we are working with a huge number of people to make sure that we are reaching out in different ways on different topics. We're looking at what we can be doing across the organisation, what is the right thing to be doing. Certainly, I think the session that you went to was possibly done with the Institute for Government. That's another of the organisations that we've been working with. And certainly they put those sessions together and decided who would be the right person to involve. But yeah, we're constantly sort of keen to listen, keen to work with you guys. If there's more things that people would like to be involved in, then just do let us know. But agreed.
Okay, please do not assume that your other colleagues within your departments are doing the right thing. Always question them. Please always question, because if you're the Deputy Director for the Windrush Lessons Learned Review, you need to reinforce to those departments that are actually commissioning people to undertake work on our behalf. So I've got only 20 minutes left of this platform, and there's about 3 more questions. So the 3 people I'm going to go to, actually I see 5 hands because 2 hands have just been raised, but you'll have to wait. The order I'm going to go is Julia Davidson, then Jacqueline Burnett, then Glenda Caesar, then Jean Greaves, then June Elizabeth. So Julia Davidson, with your question, remember we've only got 15 minutes because I need Bishop Desmond Jadu to wrap up as well. So please continue.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Nigel, for asking 2 of my questions anyway out of the chat. But just picking up on what has been currently said by Katie and Angela, and thank you very much for sharing and bringing us up to date with what is actually going on within the Home Office infrastructure. There are a couple of concerns that I've got, and one has been covered, which is that you're not actually reaching out to grassroots agencies. You're not speaking to the people from different forums. There's Preston Windrush, there's Peterborough Windrush. Hello, that's me, just so you know who I am. And the founder of Peterborough Windrush Generation Descendants. And I would like to say I've heard a couple of key words that still sets off alarms, not just in me, but in the people that I'm representing. The word institute, you're going to the government, your institutes and your government infrastructure is the one that's created this mess in the first instance. And the reasons why people do not feel that they're at that level yet of trust within the organisation, notice that I've said organisation rather than institute, is because you're still treating people, your clients, the Windrush generation, with this, we are who we are and you are who you are. So that barrier needs to be broken down more. It's unapproachable, it's not engaging with people, and that is why you're clearly not getting the numbers reflected in that. And that's why I've asked in my questions in the side chat, how are you measuring that? Where is the evidence for that? The reports that are going to be projected out will be reports that is going to be done inside. Where is there an independent review officer to be able to come in at any given time, have a look at the infrastructure, have a look at your statistical data to see if that is accurate and that you are being fit for purpose? Because from where I'm sitting and where I'm hearing other people say it is not working, it's still not working, and I cannot project that across enough. The other thing that I would like to say is the NGOs and consultants have not the first igloo about what is going on in the streets. And I can tell you just this week alone, 2 people have died, one in Manchester and another one just outside of Manchester. Now, I cannot give their information purely because of the concerns around coming to the Home Office and making their situation accessible. If your surgeries were supposed to be doing as it is being stipulated that it's being done, how is it that these 2 people were not picked up? It is a sad indictment on the Home Office. And if you are reporting back to government officials, will it be the one and only Priti Patel? Because she has done so much to damage the work from the Home Office, supposed to be supporting the Windrush generation, and she's failed miserably. The detention centres were not fit for purpose. They were no better than, in fact, dog kennels were far better than some of the detention centres. Thank you.
Well, Julia, if anybody needs to answer the questions, I'm just going to give a reflection to everybody who's posing the question because we're short of time. Just choose your priority question, please. If there's something's been raised before, you reinforce it just in one line. And if you've got a question, please ask that question, because what we need to do is have progress. Observational questions are brilliant, and what's been said so far is great in the sense of making the Home Office realise that not all what they've put forward is working at this moment in time. So, Kate, I don't know if you want to respond, or Angela, to Julia's observational questions.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll come back on those. So on your question about where are the independent people who are going to assess us, I guess the main independent person is Wendy Williams. So this was her review of the Home Office, and it will be for her ultimately to judge the extent to which we've been successful. And she's coming back in September. So I have no doubt that Wendy will forensically go through our documents. She will interview our staff. She will be doing interviews with external organisations and stakeholders. I imagine that she will do some kind of call for evidence, want to speak to people like yourselves to get your take on it before she writes up her report. And she didn't hold back in her original Windrush Lessons Learned review, and I don't imagine that she will on the progress review. So that is ultimately the person who will judge us on whether we've implemented her recommendations, and that's not too far away that she'll be doing that. In the meantime, obviously the National Audit Office came in, the EHRC came in, so we do have we have worked with the Government Internal Audit Agency have been in, so quite a lot of independent people do come in and assess us, and they often come up with findings that are not positive or complementary, and we need to take action as a result of that. So there is quite a lot of scrutiny of the work that we do, and it's quite publicly reported on our strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm conscious of time as well. And, you know, in terms of the questions that are posed by the WNO, if there's questions that can be put on the thread, and we can send those questions to the Home Office. But we've only got final 4 questions. One's from Jacqueline Burnett, one from Glenda Caesar, one from Jean Greaves, and the final one from June Elizabeth. So over to you, Jacqueline Burnett.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. I'll put some questions in the chat that I will not repeat, so I'll wait for a response back. With regards to the training that you're saying that you're doing, sort of follow on from what Jacqueline McKenzie said. Who's doing the training? There's some really good. Are you using the University of the West Indies? I really don't want to be hearing that you've hired any university that's from Britain, yeah? The language needs to be those in the Caribbean or in Africa, yeah, doing the education. So if you ain't commissioned the University of the West Indies, I want to know why. Number one, with the facilitator, are they of African and or Caribbean heritage? Number 3, have you thought about the impact of COVID and the death rates in rolling forward? Because those who are going to be left after what's gone on with Windrush and this weekend with the football players, there's been some interesting movement within the Black community, and it's going to come back to bite the government, because people are not going to be part of UK PLC. So what are you doing with speed on that point? Number 1 is the education. Thank you.
Okay.
So on both of those questions, we haven't yet, I don't think, said publicly who have been the successful bidders for the main training course, the one that will be mandatory for the Home Office, or indeed for the reconciliation or listening event. So we're not able to confirm that here. Hopefully that will be something that we'll be able to do by the time Wendy comes back in September. But as Angela said, we're working with a huge variety of experts, not only in terms of the traditional Windrush generation and the Caribbean. So as we heard yesterday, we had the event with the Windrush Foundation, who I think probably most of you would agree are experts in that topic, but we're also working with community leaders and experts in other areas of the Commonwealth as well, because it's really important that our staff understand the sort of the history of immigration legislation, that they understand the full colonial history of the UK, and obviously the Windrush organisations and the Caribbean is an important part of that, but the actual training goes more broadly than that. And will cover a sort of wider history of the UK, including the history of legislation as well. So it'll be a huge range of different organisations.
Angela, do you want to respond, or short of time?
I agree with exactly what Kate has said, and I actually do think that we are forever being told of other organisations that can contribute to our training programme. Keep them coming, we could pass them on. It's not our decision to say who's going to be accepted, but we have been.
I was not aware that you was even doing this. I don't remember a call out for who could be who could provide. I'm just hearing it. I mean, if there was a call out and I missed it, but you sound like Kate and that you've already decided. So where was the call out to the community who could have got involved? Or did I?
We've been involved in the community, because as I say, it does have to have that authentic input. It can't be all academics providing the they could provide the historical context, but they can't provide the authenticity that needs to come from the community. So we have been, all I can say is we have been reaching out to the community.
Whether the stitch has been put together or there's still a new seam to be actually done on the fabric, only time will tell on there, Jacqueline. And we could labour this all day on that particular question, but I think we can actually still pose those questions to the Home Office, and we am conscious of time. And I'm going to introduce Glenda Caesar to pose a question to the Home Office.
So sorry to interrupt, Nigel. I'm sorry, Glenda, but can I just quickly respond to Julia about the point she raised about the sad deaths of two people in Manchester? Sorry to hear that, but I just want to respond and say we are trying to meet people. Obviously, the pandemic and all the restrictions of COVID mean we can't physically get back out yet. But please, people know me on this platform. I have always been wanting to get back out and do face-to-face, get back out and see people. I really need to make this point. It's not for a lack of effort and lack of will that we aren't getting out and meeting people. I'm speaking to the Bishop presently, working about working with the Windrush National Organisation about setting up physical events again to get back out and speak to people. I really need to stress that because I don't want people thinking we're trying to move ourselves away from engagement. Please, we're not trying to do that. I want to be out there. Colleagues want to be out there. Azar wants to be out there. That is what we want to do. People know, hopefully can testify that we are trying to do that. So please be assured of that. Sorry, I felt I had to say that. Sorry.
Okay, David, thank you. It would have been lovely to have intervened whilst Kate was speaking on the response to Julia, but it's giving you time and giving us assurance that the members within the Home Office are wanting to do physical public engagement and hopefully working with various organisations up and down the country on there. Sorry? Okay, Glenda Caesar, please.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for that. I was going to ask the same questions that Jacqueline asked about this training facilitator because the Home Office hasn't consulted the community at all. I think we've got a clearer understanding of what is needed from our community. So we should have been consulted. There's many Windrush groups around that should have been consulted about this. And I just want to bring up something that Angela said about closing. The Home Secretary is going to decide to close on this apology. To me personally, I think she should be apologizing every day, and it shouldn't be something that's been closed off because there's still people in the community who's been affected who deserve apology. There's some abroad who haven't even come forward. So closing off the apology, nah, I don't agree with that at all. They need to keep apologizing every day. You apologize because people have been affected mentally, physically, and people are dying. They need to apologize every day to us. So me personally, I don't agree with that. And I also want to talk about the Windrush compensation because I know that the levels had changed from the old levels. And what I've noticed is that the people that I'm dealing with is a lot of like close family members who are being offered the lower level, whereas before these new levels came, they were being offered the starting from level 3. Now they've taken them straight down to level 4, that level 1. And just offering them £20,000, whereas the old level they were being offered was £40,000, which I can't remember where it came, but that's something that I'm interested in. But like I said, my main concern is about this apology and the training facilitator. If you could come, if you lot can make a recommendation, because obviously they're putting you in the forefront to speak to us. You make the recommendation that you come out to the Windrush groups, you come out to the community. Don't use the cross-government working group because they don't interact with the community. You need to come out to groups like WNO, to the Preston group, to Windrush Lives. Reach out to us and we can give you the answers that you need to know. I'm finished, Nigel. That's me done.
Thank you very much, Glenda.
Can I come back on that?
Response? Yes, Kate.
So in terms of the apology, we haven't stopped apologising. We do continue to apologise every day to people. Everyone who gets a compensation payout gets a letter from the Home Secretary apologising. So we haven't finished apologising, but what we have done is accept that we need to apologise. We have apologised and we will continue to make that apology. So I guess what we're saying in closing it is that we're not disputing that recommendation. We completely accept that recommendation. We have apologised and we do continue to, because it was a terrible thing that the Home Office did. Haven't disputed that. I would also just say, just to sort of echo some of what David said, so we do speak to quite a lot of you. So Preston Windrush has been mentioned a couple of times. I think between us we probably are in touch with them a couple of times a month. Quite a lot of people on this call are invited to meetings with us to talk about particular issues. We've been, gosh, I think the Home Office, we must, I don't know what our streak is at the moment, Nigel, but there must be at least six meetings in a row, I think, that we've come along to of the Windrush National Organisation ones, and we've certainly got plans to come to future ones. So if there are other meetings that you think that we should come to, we're happy to think about those, think about whether that's something that it would be useful for your group, for us to take part in. Equally,
no, Kate, no, it's to reach out to the groups. I mean, they're listed. It's just a matter of reaching out. It's like an email shot. You can contact WNO. WNO's got the list of the Windrush group. Reach out to them. Put them in your database and reach out to them so they're informed on what's going on. It's a simple process. It's very simple. I mean, we all meet up here. There's different organizations here, and some of us are not even aware of what's going on. So it's a matter of contacting WNO, Desmond, Clive or Nigel, and say, what is the list of the Windrush groups? Who are these people? We need to get in contact. We need to reach out to them because they're the people who are in the community. It's a simple process. I just don't understand. It's going on nearly, what, 2 years, and we're still going through the same thing over and over and over again, whereas we shouldn't be. Like you just said, you attend these meetings, so you know the groups.
And
but sorry.
Right. We've only got 4 minutes left, and I do need to give time for Desmond Jadu to wrap up. And I know that Jean Greaves Walls has a hand raised. So Jean, over to you, please. You're on silent, Jean. Okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. I have been...
You're breaking down, Jean. It's not a good reception. Jean, can you take a video
from policy?
Jean,
sorry?
We didn't get your question. I think you're...
Yeah, my question is, you know, I'm going to use a biblical analogy, in that in the Bible it says, by your fruit you shall know them. And I'm just wondering if we are setting up all of these policies and processes and training and so on, whether the measures are showing that the policies are working. Because when we're hearing the results or reading the reports of how many cases have been done and so on, one of the things that bothers me is, when is the Home Office actually going to put the laws correct that affected the Windrush people? The same laws which made them illegal, nothing has been done. And even in the new Nationality and Borders Bill, there isn't specifics that deals with the issues that the Windrush people have been faced with. And I'm concerned that so much of that Nationality and Borders Bill is dealing with asylum and so on, and it's not really dealing with the issues that the Windrush people have had, compared to the fact that it took only 9 months for the government to fix the Hong Kong issue. China passed the law in June of 2020, and by December of 2020, people were able to come to Britain. They had by the 31st of January to come, and the law has actually gone through Parliament, whereas nothing has gone through Parliament for the Windrush people. And I want to know, by what fruit are we going to be able to judge the changes in processes and policies of the Home Office?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. People may have their hands up. You'll have to put your questions in the response page in terms of type your questions up, and they'll be answered by the Home Office, not today because we're running out of time. So those who've got their hands raised, unfortunately, we're running out of time. Can somebody, Angela or Katie, respond to Jean Greaves, please?
So there are a couple of measures in the forthcoming bill which do address things around that impacted on the Windrush generation, and one of those things is around giving more discretion. So if someone's particular circumstances, when you look at them, even if within the law as set, normally you wouldn't be able to help them in terms of their citizenship, we have added, we're hoping to add a lot more discretion so that a caseworker can say, okay, the law hadn't thought of this situation, this circumstance, but we can tell that the right thing to do in this situation is this, and that discretion should enable us to do that. In terms of laws putting right what happened with the Windrush scandal, the main thing that went wrong is that people who should have been treated as British citizens were not done so because they didn't have their documentation, and so the Home Office applied the wrong laws to those people. We've now completely accepted that we did that, and there shouldn't now be people who in that situation who are having the laws applied to them, and that's what the Windrush scheme is there to do, is to make sure that documentation is provided, and then obviously the compensation scheme is for the people who we did wrong to, is to make up for that. But hopefully the Windrush scheme is the mechanism, and that exists in legislation to give people the documentation that they need.
Just one point in that. Wouldn't it have been easier to make a specific piece of legislation which may have a life dealing specifically with the Windrush persons rather than burying it in the Nationality and Borders Bill?
I mean, the nature of taking bills through Parliament is that you would normally put together all of the bits of legislation around immigration into one immigration bill. So that's just how Parliament decides how legislation should be built, really. So I don't.
Okay, I don't think
the Hong Kong one wasn't done like that. Right. Sorry.
We won't be able to resolve it today, but we can still put pressure on the government and the departments to try and overcome this impasse. The final question is given to June Elizabeth Gully, and June, I'm going to be praying at the end of this session. I'm praying that your question will be very short and brief so people can answer it. Continue, June.
Thank you very much. And my question, great minds think alike, was similar to what Jacqueline Mackenzie and Glenda said. And this lady, Jean, I was going to state the only thing, the discretion. So in that bill, in the nationality bill, we've got to depend on somebody's discretion. That's the end of all I was going to ask. It's been asked already, but just saying we're thinking on the same lines, and it's very important, this new nationality bill that's going through, that we need a Windrush Act. We don't need no depending on whoever comes in discretion. Otherwise, our generations will be in a worse position. So you've answered your question that I was going to ask. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, June Elizabeth. I'm going to just give a final 30 seconds to Kate and Angela to just close if they want to kind of give a feedback on their 30 seconds I've said, and then I'm going to pass over to Bishop Desmond Jan.
So I'll go first if that's all right. I think the first thing I would say is thank you for having us, and thank you for giving us the chance to talk about the Wendy Williams Lessons Learned Review. I know often when we come we talk about the compensation scheme or we talk about status, but I think it's also really important not to lose track of what Wendy said in terms of the changes that the Home Office need to make, because that's the thing that will prevent this from happening again and from happening to other people. So thank you for giving us the chance to do that. Hopefully people have our contact details, people know how to get in touch. We will continue to be available, continue to be listening, and very happy to take on board your suggestions, but mainly thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Angela?
Agreed. Thank you for having us. It is all about listening. I mean, everything I've heard today is relevant, so we're happy to keep on listening. So please do reach out to us. We reach out to you. We will respond as best we can, so we make sure we get to the communities who can contribute appropriately to what we're trying to achieve. So it is just thank you, and keep on doing more of the same, really. Keep on holding us to account and telling us, because we're happy to listen.
Well, we try to keep ourselves in check and in order in terms of these meetings. And I know that 1.5 hours is not always sufficient, but there's work that has to be done behind the scenes. You have questions on and queries, you know, come through the WNO. Let all the groups keep talking. But I will actually pass this over now to Bishop Desmond Jadu to summarize.
Thank you, Nigel. And Nigel, congratulations and well done. I think Nigel deserves a round of applause. It's the first meeting I've been told to hand over, and I'm doing it. And it was quite refreshing just to sit here and listen tonight. One of the things I need to point out first, I've noticed a couple in the chats that these meetings need to be longer. These meetings carry a lot of work afterwards. It's not just a matter of having a meeting. And for those who want to complain, then get involved, give up your time and come and help. I'm being very blunt these days because I need to be. This isn't just about having this meeting and us having a rant with the Home Office. Kate will tell you I have discussions, not with her, just Kate, but many others at the Home Office, following up cases. Now, what gives us the right to adopt this? Case study number 1 in the Wendy Williams report, that's one of my cases. I'm doing her compensation claim now. Case study number 3, Clive Foster, and good evening, Clive. Thanks, you're finally with us. Clive is dealing with that as well. Now, anyone who wants to help, no one has taken me on, Jean. Drop that email in, Jean, because others have responded. So if they haven't, we apologize. Drop the email in. The point is this at the end of the day, right? We're trying to make a difference. Now, I will tell you this. The case study number 3 is happy with not just what the work we're doing, happy in the way in which we're building bridges and we can get access and quick answers, right? Case study number 1 is happy at the fact that she's confident once that compensation claim is submitted, she will be taken seriously. And you can see the seriousness of her case, just read it. So importantly, these 90 minutes are crucial. Maybe sometimes I've taken on board what everyone has said, you know, or we have rather. It comes to me first. I look at it, I go to our fellow directors, and they said, yes, let's try doing something different. And we're trying our best to do something different. So I would just ask you for your understanding when we're doing that right now. And that's what's absolutely crucial in terms of moving forward with the meetings that we do. This time 2 years ago, we weren't having these types of meetings. This time 2 years ago, we weren't having slides that we were able to distribute before a meeting. This time 2 years ago, I had no mobile phone numbers. I'm sorry, I'm going to let them know, Kate and Co, I've got mobile phone numbers where I can ring people after hours and pester them if I need to. I don't do it. But the point is this at the end of the day, we've got greater access. And because WNO has that access, it doesn't mean it's specifically for me. It's for all of us. And when people do come on this platform, please, many of these organizations are a part of WNO. So let's talking WNO, because at the end of the day, any information comes into us, we will not hesitate to disseminate that information accordingly. And I would urge the Home Office, when you're doing commissioning, commission the WNO to do some of this work. We have a strategy document that we produced. That strategy document, there are quick wins in it, and hopefully next month we can report to you on what some of the quick wins are. One of the biggest quick wins are these meetings, having them monthly, having them during COVID. Our strategy to go out there and have face-to-face meetings at 20 locations across the United Kingdom where we've not had any engagement done at all. Also as well, remember, we've started our engagement in the Caribbean. We have our engagement done with the CARICOM commissioners, and we're also going to the African subcontinent as well, and the Asian subcontinent in terms of our engagement as well. And that's commencing now. So we are making progress, and we're making significant progress. So in terms of that, I just wanted everyone to know where WNO stands. We're independent. We're not funded by the Home Office. We want to make a difference for the Windrush generation. And that's the most important thing that we're doing here. So importantly, I just want to thank everyone for attending the meeting tonight. And I'm going to give our Vice Chair, Reverend Clive Foster, some work to do. But once again, I want to thank our Director of Communications, Nigel Guy, for chairing this evening's meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kate, and the rest of the team for joining us. The date of our next meeting is August. I know it's August, but you know, the Windrush generation don't get a break, so I don't see why we should have one. So it's the 19th of August is our next meeting. The recording from tonight's meeting will be available within 72 hours. And the questions submitted in the chat, we will have those to the Home Office on Monday morning. And as soon as they get back to us, they will be watermarked and posted on our website. And moving forward, any presentations from the Home Office will be made available, providing our IT man is available on the website. If not, as today, they will be emailed out to everyone. So thank you very much for your attendance this evening. And Reverend Clive, are you able to close us in prayer? Nigel prayed so eloquently at the beginning, but I thought you're not going to have a night off because I don't have one. So there you go. Good night, everyone, and thank you. Reverend Clive, please just close us off in prayer.
Thanks, Bishop Desmond. For those of you who wish to join us in prayer, we'll do that now. Shall we pray? Father, we just thank you for your goodness and mercy towards us. We know that you're a God of love, a God of mercy, a God of justice. We commit this work to you. We ask that you would give strength, bring healing, bring restoration, and bring your justice. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to meet in this fashion and continue to watch over us, our families, indeed our nation and our world, as we give you thanks. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'm sorry, Nigel, you can tell everyone good night. Sorry, back to
everyone. Let's everyone say good night. We'll see you again, hopefully, and continue the work and continue challenging. The race is there. Let's keep cheering that we actually cross that finishing line and there's a winning result for all of us, because the work endures. And just keep continuing doing what we need to do, because there are many people who are out there that need our assistance, and we need to be supporting them. And just like the Windrush National Organization says with its strapline, voting today for a better future. Thank you. Yeah, good night. Just those on the WNO members, if you can remain on the platform, please. Thank you very much, Kate. Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much, Angela. And thank you very much, Azar. Thank you. Hey, Julia.
Hello, Nigel. Amazing this evening.